Welcome back to Channel 0X. My name is Michael Landon. This is my wife Caroline.
Hi.
Nice to have you back here again. Caroline, you were going to give us a little brief summary, if you have the time to explain what Mortal Worlds is about and what you have contributed to.
Okay, I just want to give it, Mike's covered this in a longer video, which is already posted up if you want to have a look at that. But to do a very brief synopsis, what Mortal Worlds is that there's a group of people on a planet called Aldar who have been doing genetic experiments with the DNA of some of the soldier population, some of the serving armed forces. They created a prototype, called it a Slayer, and this man is a guy called Cade Saiga. They then created more Slayers, and various things happened, which Mike has covered in great detail. Basically what Mortal Worlds is it's a paradox. What happens is that Cade Saiga's son is kidnapped. Eldridge, I think, is about 16. His son's kidnapped, and he is told by Dawson, who is head of the research facility and the person who gets all the funding in through all the channels we know about Black Ops, whatever, to basically make sure that the money's there and no one knows that it's there. And he's the person who kidnaps Eldridge and forces Cade Saiga to retrieve the Claymore, a sword of incredibly ancient origin, which is embedded in an obelisk in an alternative reality, and he sends Saiga to that alternative reality to pull the sword. Pulling the sword will release an enormous titan weaponized mountain called Rizar. It will allow it to rise from the depths of the human and other collective unconsciousness and materialise back in the world as a living entity. And Saiga's son will die if he doesn't do it. So he does. He releases the sword with great effort. He materialises back in this world. And soon after, so does Rizar. I won't say too much else about the plot at the moment because we will give you further details on it. But the paradox of Rizar, it lives, as Mike said, in a Titan obelisk within a super fortress, a weaponized mountain. The paradox of Rizar is that if it is destroyed, it has a doomsday switch. It goes, all of creation goes. So basically what the world of Aldar has to do is find a way to beat that paradox. They have to find a way to incurse into a Titan Titan edifice, weaponized beyond anything we could possibly imagine, and find a way to defeat Rizar without taking all of creation with it. How do they do that? That's just a very, very brief synopsis overview of it, which I hope will pique your interest. Go and have a look at the page. And now I'll pass you back to Mike. My contribution to this, Mike is the artist and Mike is the letterer and Mike has done the writing. My contribution to this over the last few years is the tossing back and forth of ideas, the developing of concepts together, many late evenings spent on our computers, developing it to the stage it's got to. Doing that work with Mike I come from a very different field, as you'll see from the bio video, but doing this was a really wonderful, enjoyable experience for me. It took me into territory I'd never been before. It took me into creativity. Mike's contribution is far larger than mine, and he deserves all the credit for the beautiful artwork that's up there. And if you back the project, you will get to see the end result of that. And I'd just also like to give a big shout out to everybody who's backed us already. Thank you very much indeed. To anyone who's tweeted, retweeted, who's basically helped us get it out there. A big thank you to all you guys as well. Okay, Mike.
That's great. Thanks very much, Caroline. That was a really nice, concise summary. I reckon that hit some very interesting points I think that we've raised in Mortal Worlds there.
I did my best.
It was, yeah, and I think it's reminded me also that there is an end game, a prize at the end of this story, which we can all relate to, because what Rizar has essentially been harnessing from the population it has invaded to its own purposes, to its final end game, is confidence. It is called charge in the story. It's what charges anybody up or anything up. It can be used to power vehicles, it can be used to power a person, hence the Slayers, the extra power that they develop as a result of their exposure to this force is that they are no longer quite human. They do no longer have human lifespans. They are much more truncated, shorter, but they blaze far more brightly in the brief period of service in which they find themselves. Now, we all have moments, I'm sure, where we feel not quite so confident to drive ourselves forwards because there is perhaps sometimes a flight or fight response in us where perhaps we don't even so much take flight as are paralyzed with fear or lack of self-belief, or perhaps we feel we are just playing for time in order for events to reorganize themselves around us. But life teaches us fairly briskly that action is always required in moments of your doubts. Action of one form or another. One must believe in oneself that one undertakes positive action rather than negative. And this is what Cade Saiga essentially is the first person to realize, and therefore acquires the power of the charge in a human form rather than one simply that is used to drive starships, etc., vehicles. He is a superhuman, but still limited capacity. He's just marginally stronger than perhaps his antitheses, but soon has come along a nemesis which far overpowers him, and he needs to find a new way to overcome them.
And not to be too metaphysical about this, but one of my favourite directors is a guy called David Lynch, who does transcendental meditation, and I've been trying to practice with this a bit lately, and I have come to believe that the imagination, I mean, without imagination I don't think we'd have anything. You have to conceive and believe before things manifest. Houses, electricity, cars, all the rest of it. And I basically think, yeah, we all feel fear and doubt, and I think what Mortal Worlds is it's about being faced with insuperable odds and having to find a way to overcome those odds while being in some ways a very human story. And I think, they have to use imagination, they're going to have to use creativity, they're going to have to use a hell of a lot of intelligence to overcome this seemingly unlockable paradox. So yeah, anyway, thanks Mike.
Yeah, these characters, they have their own traits. Cade Saiga is a earnest man, very much of an everyman in many respects. He loves his family, he loves his country, he loves his planet, and beyond that he hopes the best for all worlds. But events soon supersede his beliefs. Some of his superiors believe his naivety, and reality comes knocking in the form of Rysar, who is the ultimate in opponents.
So there you go, guys. There's a really brief synopsis of Mortal Worlds. We do have the Indiegogo campaign. Please have a look at the page. Please check it out. See what you think. Leave comments for the videos. Mike's already uploaded a Star Wars video. We've both got a lot of feelings about this, what's been happening with this. Both of us grew up loving the originals, and so yeah, we're going to share our thoughts on that quite a lot as well. And once we've done the Indiegogo campaign, whichever way it goes, we'll be developing the channel into hopefully new areas of interest. Anyway, if you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button, check out the page, and we'll see you again. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.
Thank you again. Take care. Bye.